Alright guys, what's up? Just had to do one more for you guys tonight. It's chapter 13, Continue to Run With Me, called Ready, Set, Hold Your Breath. So, can only imagine by the title what you guys might think this is about. Be surprised of who's right and who's not, but I hope you enjoy. Today's lesson will push you out of your comfort zone. It will jab at your senses, psychologically placing your mind into fear. You may overcome aquaphobia or let it mislead you, causing you to lose awareness. It may even drive you further beneath the erratic waves, forcing you to take your very last breath. I dangled my feet in the water, gazing at the depth of 20 feet below me. I only observed water, never letting it overpower me with its destructible current. Coco's instructions echoed throughout the Coast Guard's training pool. Finally, at ease, Tiffany lied out on the lounge chair next to me, enjoying our horrible flailing in the water, and especially as we flew through the air, struggling to perfect an easy entrance to the water. I belly flopped so hard it knocked the breath right out of me. Each time we fucked up a proper entrance, Coco made us swim laps until complete exhaustion. What was worse was Coco thought it was comedic to fire off blank rounds in mid-jump to scare the shit out of us. For the first 3 days, Coco had us practice jumping into the pool over and over again for several hours at a time. I hit the water so much that my back was all bruised up. Drifting Jiu-Jitsu had less difficulty compared to water training. After passing our jumping technique course, Coco went on to advanced techniques to hold our breath for extended periods at a time. We endured another 3 days building up our lung strength. And what sucked for Sky and I was that we smoked entirely way too much weed that our lungs were surely going to collapse. Coco started off easy by using a stopwatch, instructing when to go underwater while he calculated our times. Moving on to making things harder, Coco had to stay underwater until blowing his whistle for us to come up. I came close to passing out at least a dozen times until I was able to convince myself that I could stay under while I counted to 60. Just when I thought that it couldn't get much worse, tomorrow's session involved bringing everyone's fear of drowning to life. Cement boulders sat at the bottom of the pool with rusted chains attached. I couldn't shake the thought of possibly dying tomorrow. I walked into the men's locker room, turning the water on all the way hot. My body trembled with weakness as my muscles cramped beneath my aching skin I longed to shed. The lighting was dim, letting relaxation rise within the steam that entered my nostrils. Scalding liquid steamed down my body, circulating the drain before disappearing. I rested my head against the tile wall, feeling its coolness counteract with the temperature of the water. Falling deeper into meditation, I was startled by the sensation of familiar fingernails dragging down my chest. A smile drew my cheeks upward as Sky's left sultry kisses atop my shoulder blade. I pulled her arms tightly into me, breathing in slowly. Turning around, Sky's nude appearance stood before me, seeming unpretentious. The outline of her top belly had my knees weak as I traced its definition with my index finger. Sky grabbed my forearms once I gripped both hips, placing my forehead against hers. "What are you doing in here?" My voice lowered. Sky smiled while kissing me, melting my nerves with the touch of her hands running through my wet hair. I could have lived in that moment forever, holding her against me without worry. Cradling my face, Sky looked so deep into my eyes that it had my soul quivering. "Tell me, Malice." "I want to. No. I need to hear you say it." I inhaled forcefully to my own shame. "I love you, Sky. You should never have to ask me. It usually goes without saying. Your eyes, your smile, your hands, they all physically tell me. I just need to hear it verbally sometimes." I tipped her chin to reacquaint my eyes. "Sky, my love for you runs deeper than the marrow in my bones. So deep I shudder beneath the slightest touch. I wish I could place what my heart feels into yours so that you never dare question it again. Most days I am absent words, instant indescribable, but that doesn't make me numb." I held her into me for a long moment of silence, enjoying the much-needed affection. The following day, Coco stood with his hands on his hips explaining our next exercise. The chains attached to the cement boulders had large clasps at the end, merely resembling collars. It was a practice to conquer fear, to instill composure, and feel the stress beneath the rip current. I thought Coco had lost all but his fucking mind, but it was my mistake for coming to training when I was higher than a satellite. We're like underwater dogs, pretty much, Sky's voice shook. More like drowning mud puppies, I snickered. Coco's eyes shifted towards mine, drawing his brows together. Malice, since you want to be the class clown, why don't you bring your candy ass on over here for a demonstration, he said sternly. Sky's eyes were wider than a giant squid's when Coco's gestured for me to climb into the pool. I did as he instructed, try not to make anything seem humorous. Hold your breath until I blow the whistle. Begin. His voice rose. I held my breath underwater, counting 10 seconds before I heard the whistle. He had me do this until I reached 30 seconds for the 5th fucking time. By the time I could catch my breath, Coco would make me go under again. I was panting as my lungs grew weak and desperate within my chest. Coco knelt down with reddened skin tone from agitation. He grasped the back of my neck, holding my head down as I fought to reach the surface. I could hear his muffled voice yelling above me. This is what could happen to you if you choose to fuck around and forget your purpose. Your life is at stake. Is it worth it, Malice? Letting me up for a short inhale, Coco tightened his hold on me, digging his fingernails into my carotid artery, slowly cutting off blood flow to my brain. Oh my God, stop, please, you're hurting him, Sky begged. Coco shoved me out of his reach, letting me make my way to the edge to rest. Your mission could not afford asinine discrepancies. Minor flaws are to be expected, but full-out laziness is unacceptable. Why would you put your own life and those of your companions at risk? I reached up, taking Coco's hands in assistance. Everyone else just sat in silence, waiting for further instruction. Now that Coco made a damn example out of me, my blood was just boiling and my mood was bitter through the duration of our final exercise. We swam to the bottom of the pool, placing the clasp around our neck. Our bodies froze after hearing the muffle of his whistle, informing that our time had begun. Our objective was to withstand 2 minutes and 30 seconds underwater. I sat Indian style on the pool floor, feeling my pulse thump throughout my body while listening to my heartbeat echoing. Death lurking as time lagged on, feeling my lungs burn, nearly imploding. I felt like an entirety that we were chained at the bottom of the pool as the need for oxygen suffocated my lungs. Trent rocked his head back and forth as if he was mentally calming himself, whereas Sky sat completely still with her eyes shut, drifted the same as tiny bubbles escaped his nostrils while remaining motionless. Once my hearing began to fade, my vision started to go along with it as the water became murky and dappled. The fear of never breathing again had my feet pressed firmly against the boulder, ready to launch. The second I heard the whistle blow, I yanked the collar from my throat, jetting myself to the surface. Each stroke took every ounce of strength I had left, for my journey seemed impossible to finish. I needed a miracle to push me above the water before I ended up drowning. Coming closer to the surface, my movement became slower as my fingertips rose into the air. Roughly taking in oxygen overwhelmed me as I inhaled water, nearly regurgitating. Juniper has a constant surveillance that remains invariable. His men won't be easily swayed. If they catch sight of you, they will not hesitate to kill you. Everything I am teaching you has its purpose, and you will utilize these skills in the coming days through the realization that may frighten you. Don't fret. You're doing me a favor as well as serving justice by putting an end to relentless exuberance. Indulging private property without the ability to persuade an easy entrance had everyone drenched in trepidation. If I knew my actions would have resulted in this, I would not have let those bastards yet draw breath. I guess we don't always have the privilege in choosing our life's path, but we do have control of the choices that we make while on the ride. Having enough water involvement for the day, Coco released us to go home and relax. I was more than grateful of his considerable compassion for the weakness that he drove into my bones. A zephyr in the atmosphere did all but shatter me completely. I was so exhausted I could have crumbled with one impact to the pavement. I rested on the edge of the bed, going through an old box consisting of remnants of my past. Sky crawled up behind me, rubbing my tender muscles as I uncovered my journal. If you ever want to know how I feel, have a look. I held it over my shoulder for her to grab. Oh, Malice. I couldn't. That's your personal thoughts and feelings. Some in which involve you, so I'm granting permission to let your curiosity flourish. Maybe solidify some unspoken words. I smiled. Sky read some of the entries aloud as I silently whispered them along with her, having memorized most of my own scriptures. I turned to view her expression while she relished in the simplicity of paper containing a man's feelings in their purest form. Her baby blues became glossy in the lighting, causing me to absentmindedly rub her leg in comfort. Meeting my eyes, she blinked as tiny tears rolled down her porcelain cheeks, brushed with red. I couldn't imagine my own words holding such value, concealing the power to synthesize all emotions, having them affect in others. I pointed out my mother and my father and the portrait that I took from the wall the day my house went up in flames. Sky clutched her chest in empathetic sorrow, rubbing my face with her vacant hand. Your words are delightfully inspiring, captivating honesty as your persona shelters just how vulnerable you really are. My heart ached with each written emotion, and I'm greatly appreciative of having known you, and you trusting me enough to allow me access into that still heart of yours. My expression softened as my heart skipped a beat. You are the only one to ever be considered worthy enough to see what's behind these dark eyes of mine. My mind is intricate, yet carries simple thoughts. As your words ignite flames so intense they could cremate my fucking soul, Shakespeare, Sky laughed. Coco left a lovely voicemail requesting for us to meet him at the Green Bay for a bike ride. Drift was more than excited to see what the plan was for the day. Trent didn't have a bike of his own, so we had to borrow one of Coco's once we had arrived. We followed his truck and trailer down the side road that led to the Austin Strobel International Airport. There were neon sports cars and semi-trucks positioned on the straightaway. As we pulled up behind Coco, he signaled the drivers to reveal themselves. As their doors opened, several large men of a variety of races stepped out. These men are well-trained professionals when it comes to dodging traffic and quickly maneuvering tight corners on four wheels, also known as escape artists. Your objective is to outrun them as they chase you at high speeds up and down this landing strip. There are cones set up that will force your confidence to rise as you lay your bike down, grinding that knee at 140 miles per hour, if not faster. My jaw did all but detach from my head as we went over our instructions. The cars parked before us were all Mustangs to Porsches with turbo divulging over 200 horsepower built into their engines. I thought holding my breath underwater until almost drowning was horrifying, but this was much riskier. One false move and my body would be dismembered all over the runway. I also got these for you guys. They're helmets with built-in Bluetooth so you guys can communicate at all times, Drift added. It is very important that you all understand that communication is key. It will make or break you on a mission. If your rider fails to surrender information, it could be detrimental. Coco had Trent, Drift, and I ride solo for the first exercise. I had to get used to making obscene turns without endangering myself in order to ensure the safety of a passenger. We wouldn't have been comfortable with Sky in the back otherwise. Straddling our bikes, torquing the throttle to warm our engines, the cars lined in a V formation behind us. Once Coco signaled for us to take off, I pulled the throttle back so hard my front wheel came off the ground. Looking in my rearview, I watched the cars gain on us. At first, it was every man for himself until Coco came over our speakers enforcing communication. We ran tight corners trying to throw the drivers off, but it was no use. Them being more advanced where reckless driving was concerned had us in a bind, and now was the time to let my confidence shine. Up ahead, my eyes met the monstrous semi-truck, leaving me nowhere else to go. I signaled Trent to veer left and Drift to veer right to throw the drivers off, while my time for the perfect escape started closing in. Sky came over my speaker in shambles, yelling for me to slow down or turn around, but I was persistent on making this happen. Only inches away from my death, I pulled the clutch in, leaning my bike all the way over to the left, hearing plastic scrape across the asphalt as my helmet tapped the semi's undercarriage. I heard screeching tires behind me as I struggled to regain control of the bike and its weight. Rounding the bike into a 360-degree spin, I planted my left boot into the ground, using all of my strength to pull the bike up to its standing position. Hitting the emergency kill switch, I dropped the kickstand, hopping off the bike. Pulling my helmet off to intake the breath that was grace from God himself, I stood a glorious warrior. The drivers all jumped out of their vehicles, racing hell over my ridiculous decision to the other side of the semi-truck. Trent and Drift pulled up next to me, tearing their helmets off to assist me. That was fine, luckily. What in the fuck were you thinking? I thought I was watching your death unravel. Trent exasperated. I scratched the back of my head, giving a shrug. You have to admit, that was pretty fucking awesome. Drift shook his head in laughter, gesturing a high five. We rode back over to where everyone was waiting, becoming rather ostentatious, The guys and I rode up in Willys before entering a stoppie. Sky ran up kissing me with the force of revival, only to follow up with a slap to the chest. You scared the hell out of me. I had it under control. I just wanted to conquer the impossible. And that you did, son. Excellent job, though I won't lie. I have never seen such a maniacal display in all my years. You truly are fearless, Coco admitted. Giving us a few more runs of being chased, Coco switched it up, having the drivers position themselves sporadically over the runway. We were instructed to dodge them before crashing head-on. Playing chicken at a recklessly high speed was something I never thought I would have ever had to face. The Mafia sure as hell didn't play when it came to survival techniques. Letting Sky hop on the back, this exercise consisted of a real-life traffic demonstration. The drivers were lined up in rows portraying oncoming traffic, and our objective was to weave through them individually in order to break away, ending in a high speed to escape. The nervousness had Sky shaking through her gear. I pushed my intercom button to calm her down. Do you trust me? With my life, I believe in you. So please, get us to the end safely. My eyes marked the flag at the end of our destination. That was all I focused on until I heard the horn blow. Picking up speed, Sky clutched me tighter the closer we approached the cars, their engines screaming as their tires burned asphalt charging straight for us. I looked over at Trent as he pulled back on his throttle, going up to a wheelie before crashing straight into the Porsche 911 at 130 miles per hour. The weight of his back tire smashed the driver's windshield as Trenton flew over the top before completely wiping out. As much as I wanted to turn around and assist him, I knew that I had to make it to the end, and a selfish move like that would put Sky and I both at risk. Jerking the handlebars from left to right, weaving through the cars, I kept my main focus on that godforsaken flag. Once the final car passed, I looked to my rearview, seeing them whip around to chase us. I had no choice but to snap the throttle back, sending us down the runway at 170 miles an hour until reaching the red flag. Sky hopped off, shaking with the fear. Once I parked, pulling off her helmet, I witnessed tears rolling down as she stared back at me. What's wrong? This shit is just really intense. I'm not crying from sadness. My eyes are watering from the fear of how fast we were just going. She laughed. I'm gonna continue this on the next one, guys. Thanks.